Hello everybody, my name is AlyssaGilbert, and to start off the presentations for today, I wanted to start with my work and then I'll go into my gallery artist presentation. But at first I wanted to show you a collection of work I have made throughout the years. In the beginning of high school, I actually surprisingly didn't take any art classes because where an art class would have fit in is actually where I was taking band. Band wound up not exactly being for me, so I decided to move on to art because it was something I really enjoyed doing in middle school and something that a teacher of mine really got me dedicated to, and I was actually making work outside of freshman year on my own, so I didn't have time in school to do it. But once I was finally in the art department and I found my little niche, I realized just how much I was missing out on freshman year because I finally got to do things like, as you see here, my Bratz rendition of me and two of my friends from high school in the upper right hand corner was kind of Kahindi Wiley inspired in the fact that he uses patterning in his background. That's the only thing I took from him at this point in high school. Once I finally got into the art department, and I had a lot of fun with it, and it was really fun to actually do research on an artist myself. And then in the bottom left hand photograph of the skeleton is actually when I started learning observational painting, and we actually painted our skeletons and gave them a background story from observation. And then I also found that I really loved doing 3D work while I was in high school, and there's a lot of sculptural background in that. I worked a lot with plaster and ceramics as my main 3D media in high school. And then from there, I got to take some higher level art classes. I actually got to jump ahead 2 classes my senior year because my art teachers thought I could really handle it, and they saw I was really dedicated to my craft, so they were okay with jumping me up to painting 2. That way I had 2 entire class periods dedicated to art in the morning. In this class, I was actually able to touch more on some serious topics, which is something I really like using my art for. In this series here, starting with the woman in the left-hand corner, and then in the middle is actually the preliminary drawing I made before I made the painting on its right, and then it goes to the one on the bottom. This is actually a series on domestic abuse against men of color. It's a pretty important topic to me because I do have a lot of family members in my family, a lot of men of color in my family who have been abused in their relationship but never felt like they could come out against it because of threats of like, no one would believe you, or if you leave me, I'm going to take the kids and you'll never see them again. And it's sent a lot of them spiraling, and I kind of wanted to show just how extreme that sometimes can get, from the abusive words to the actual abusive actions, and then to the repercussions of how sometimes people turn to drugs and can OD and really hurt themselves because they don't know what to do and they sometimes don't see any other escape. It is a little heavy, so I do apologize if that was a lot, but it's just something that was really important to me and I really wanted to make sure I touch on because I would love to do some work on some serious topics if possible while I'm in this studio. It is my first studio, so we'll see what may or may not come of those concepts. And then I finally got to college. Obviously, we all took the fundamentals. Unfortunately, I actually didn't get to take painting until last semester, so my first semester of my junior year. So prior to that, it was a lot of drawing courses. And in those drawing courses, I actually really got to learn more about the technical skills behind drawing, and I'm really thankful for that because I have seen it help me a lot in then my 3D courses, and then it helped me a lot also in painting last semester. So here I just have some of my realism drawings off to the right that I have tried over the years, and then on the furthest to the left is just a final I made for Professor Rose. It was just something fun I did with line drawing and patterning. And then these are just some more things I made in college. I thought it might be interesting for me to incorporate them because even though I really do love the 2D work, the 3D work has been a lot of fun. So off to the far left is actually a beekeeper hat. Well, it's inspired by like a beekeeper hat to use in my textiles as a final. In the middle there, the next photo is actually one of me. I never touched digital work until I got to college, so that was a lot of fun to do and figure out. And then in ceramics, I had some fun making some cute sets. I did find out that I loved the glazing more than I loved actually working on the wheel, because working on the wheel hurt my wrist a lot. And then my floating geometrical donut up in the top was something I made in Professor Salafia's 3D class. I had a lot of fun doing that, but once again, the painting was honestly my favorite part because it was also the least messiest part of that styrofoam project. And then I finally got to paint. These are actually my two finals from last semester for Professor Mahosky. I, of course, did paint outside of school. It's just I'm a very media-based artist when it comes to my personal work or work that I'm doing for my family. I'll see things that I really want to recreate or that I want to render as a painting, so I'll go ahead and do that on my own. Last semester I did get to make a self-portrait, and I actually found I absolutely loved it. So I kind of would like to work a lot more in portraiture. I've tried to avoid it most of my painting career and my art career, because it's very intimidating, like if you don't get the person's features exactly right. But I am trying to work more on abstracting and not trying to make everything super hyper realistic. Okay, and now this is my gallery artist. His name is Alex Jackson. I did have to use this black and white photo as one of the photos of just him. He was really hard to gather information on. And it was really hard to find photographs of him. In fact, I had to resort to scrolling through social medias and stalking Instagram pages to find the right Alex Jackson on Instagram. But once I finally found him, I was able to piece together some things to try and give you a good bio of him and not just of his work. So he was born in 1993 in Milwaukee. He is roughly 30 years of age, which I only mention because I also want to talk about his family and his father. Alex Jackson received his MFA in painting and printmaking from Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut. While searching to find out what he looks like and how old he was, I also found out that his father, Keith Jackson, is also a contemporary painter, and they are constantly promoting one another's works and shows. His Instagram was completely flooded with not only pictures of his work that were actually in the Steven Zavitas, I do believe is how it's pronounced. Forgive me if I'm wrong. But him and his father are actually both promoting each other because they're both in that gallery. When I clicked on that website link again after doing some of my own research that was provided to us, I found that his father was actually listed at the top, and just a couple people down was then him. After stalking his Instagram, I pieced those two things together. And I thought it was really sweet to think about how they both made it together. And I just felt as though it was cool to see a father and a son in the same place and to see exactly where his son got his inspiration from. So seeing Alex Jackson's work next to his father was really interesting, and you could also see how they were both inspired by one another or similar things. Now, actually about Alex Jackson's work. Alex Jackson challenges the perception of the human form by incorporating the entire color wheel and geometric concepts in his work. He likes to go further beyond just the simple things that we would typically see, like normal skin tones. He would try and challenge with opposites or complete different styling. By breaking down forms we are familiar with into basic elements, such as colors, shapes, and lines, he is also able to confront the way society sees race, sexuality, and gender. So I have here a couple photographs of some of his work in the gallery that we were provided a link to, just to show you exactly where the challenging of these basic concepts or changing of these basic concepts come into play. You can see that in his human forms, he abstracts them so much that it's kind of hard to tell what they were if we didn't already know what the human form looked like. In the left-hand side, in cambium, I do believe is how it's pronounced, you can see how he turned the body into a grid-like form, which is very challenging. And I also thought it was really interesting how that is so abstracted, but I can still sit here and notice how it is a human form. And then he does the same thing in the right for a son never forgets, love your flesh. In the actual picture holding the child, he or she is actually blending in a lot with the background. So I like that complex fight between the foreground and the background. And then I do believe the love your flesh part comes into play with how the son looks so different from the person holding them. It's like, don't, it kind of reminds me of no matter how different you look, still love yourself. Um, But I had a lot of fun trying to get to know this artist and doing a bunch of research. I was really dedicated to figuring out who he was and more about him. So it was fun, and I think I have a new artist I am going to try and stalk the page of and stay updated with some of his work because they are really intricate and interesting, and I'd like to take some of that abstraction and changing of basic elements to kind of confront how society sees the human form some in this studio practice, if not my next studio practice. Thank you.